It's officially been 1 year since Splash Mountain closed here at Walt Disney World, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure is well on its way to opening a lot sooner than you'd expect. What's up YouTube? Drew here. Today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the details of Tiana's Bayou Adventure and when it could be opening here at Walt Disney World. So with that being said, let's get to it. Well, Tiana's Bayou Adventure will open at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland this year. The Walt Disney World version is currently much further along and in the final stages of construction, being that our Splash Mountain closed a lot earlier than Disneyland's 1 year ago, to the point that scaffolding is coming down on the outside of the attraction. Imagineering is giving tours to select members of the media, which we got a lot of new information from. And if you go to disneyworld.com right now and search Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the attraction page is alive. So when we get new information soon, that page can be updated to reflect that. The best way I can describe Tiana's Bayou Adventure right now is that there is a ton of information about this attraction. It's just in so many different and random places that the majority of people who are Disney Parks fans and excited for this attraction probably don't even know that that information is out there. It's like having puzzle pieces and you know they're a part of the same set, but they're in different places and you just have to figure out how to put it together. So we just actually got a pretty big update on this attraction just a couple days ago from NOLA.com, which NOLA.com was on that Imagineering hard hat tour we saw on January 5th. And like I mentioned, it is a very good sign for the Walt Disney World version of the attraction, at least, that they're giving a hard hat tour at this point because, well, we can see everything on the outside of the attraction and the scaffolding coming down. We don't necessarily know what's going on the inside until we see something like this. So I'm assuming that if the creative director of the attraction, Ted Robledo, is giving media a tour, that most of this attraction is almost there, get it? Almost there, in most regards. So very good sign there, but some of the cool information we got out of this article is some more details about the queue line specifically, and then also some information about the attraction itself. Now, what I will say is that the queue line for this attraction has had a lot of people discussing whether the storyline is weak or whether it's going to be good, but it's very important to know here that the queue line is pretty much the backstory for where Tiana is in her life currently, and that's not what we're going to see on the ride itself. The ride itself, the best way I can describe it, my understanding, is that it's going to be a critter-filled journey as we help Tiana look for a missing ingredient in the finale of the attraction. So, well, the queue line is pretty much the setup of where we're at, just like a movie. We're at this transformed salt dome, which is Tiana's business, Tiana's foods. That's the queue line, whereas the ride itself is an actual journey into the bayou filled with critters, just like Splash Mountain had. And that's one of the big things I am excited for, is that this attraction is actually building on Splash Mountain in a lot of ways. The reasons I love Splash Mountain personally were the animatronics, the music, the thrills, the characters. Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to have all of that in a current era with new technology. So far, everything we've seen is very promising. But just remember, what we're seeing in the queue line is just the setup for the ride. Alright, so that's pretty much a giant overview of the entire attraction from queue to ride, story, all that. And trust me, I understand that that's a ton of information for 2 minutes, so let's backtrack all the way to the very beginning of this story. So in official lore terms, we know that Tiana took over this salt mine in 1927. So as she's throwing this Mardi Gras party and we're helping her look for this missing ingredient for the Mardi Gras party in the finale, but we know in the outdoor section of the queue itself, where the birdhouses were in Splash Mountain, just the outdoor section, that this part of the queue line is going to feature an old-time radio show, and Tiana is actually going to be talking to us while we are in line through a 1930s Arvin radio, which I think is super neat, keeping it authentic to the era, and it's probably going to sound cool just being the fact that Tiana's talking to us and it has that old-timey sound effect. And there's also going to be a record player here when Tiana's not talking to us playing music. So we know that Terrence Blanchard, who in the original Princess and the Frog film did all the trumpet work for Lewis, is actually returning to work on this project with Walt Disney Imagineering, and the music that's going to be playing are brand new instrumental versions of the songs from Princess and the Frog on top of reimagined New Orleans classics that are performed by New Orleans musicians. So I think it's really cool that not only is Tiana talking to us, getting the story going immediately, but we're gonna have Princess and the Frog songs here and New Orleans songs all done by Terrence Blanchard, who, like I said, worked on the original film. It's pretty much a full circle moment there. And then as we work our way through the outdoor section into the barn, which that barn is now painted yellow, the former barn from Splash Mountain, that's going to be where we see that this is a giant Tiana's Foods operation. That barn is going to house all of the main offices for Tiana's Foods, so I'm assuming we're going to see lots of paperwork there, props, food. We're gonna smell beignets because remember, this is all centered around a Mardi Gras party, so you'll be able to smell beignets in the queue. And then as you work your way closer to the load station, there's really not much that they can do there with the queue besides maybe repainting it, adding some artwork. But we know that once you get to the load station, that above, there's actually going to be cranes that are hoisting Tiana's Foods crates, getting everything ready for the party. And shout out to WDW Magic. We actually have a photo of this from a few months ago. So you can see here that this crane is hoisting these crates that say Tiana's Foods on them. That's all going to be at the load station itself. And then that's where the ride begins. All right, so this next thing I want to talk about, I think could directly relate to the ride storyline as the first piece of merchandise for the attraction recently released out of nowhere, which features a never before seen tiara pin and 4 never before seen pieces of concept art until now. And on the back of this concept art, there is a highlight of an Imagineer, Brittany L. Smith, who did all of this artwork and also happens to be the designer for the Tiana animatronic in this attraction itself. So at first thought, I'm like, is this concept art that we'll see in the queue line maybe, or just inspiration for what they're working on? But at further thought, could this be an outfit that Tiana is wearing in the finale in this one piece of concept art, as it's a 1920s dress, and this tiara is so prominently featured with this necklace and ride show scene. But then I was like, when we're in the finale, by then we'll know what the missing ingredient is. So could this tiara be the missing ingredient? And this is literally just a theory. I have no inside information here. The reason why I think that this missing ingredient is going to be a physical item and not necessarily magic or love or us showing up being the missing ingredient the entire time is because in an article that Disney Parks blog released last year, they said that there's a mix-up of the party preparations, which then leads to Tiana asking us for help to find a missing ingredient. And being that there's cranes in the load station with all of these foods and things for this party in the finale, I'm thinking that this mix-up is quite literally a mix-up of the preparations. And on top of that, we have the water tower outside of the attraction with this tiara on top. We've had Walt Disney Imagineering confirm that Tiana is going to be appearing in multiple outfits, so it just seems a little too perfect to have this brand new concept art come out with Tiana wearing this 1920s dress with this new tiara, new outfit, new necklace with this finale. And I just think that Walt Disney Imagineering, loving the idea of having this current story, this current chapter for Tiana, close with it being a direct reflection of what she wanted as a child. As even in this piece of concept art, it shows an older version of Tiana looking back at a younger version of herself. And if you look at the film, Tiana as a child was always wishing wearing this tiara, and now with Tiana opening Tiana's Foods and Tiana's Palace, all of her wishes and dreams as a child have come true. So what better way to have this current chapter of her story end with it being a direct reflection of what she wanted as a child, with this tiara potentially being the missing ingredient. And like I said, I think that this missing ingredient will be a physical item just based off of what Disney has said, with it being a mix-up in the party preparations. When I'm looking at something like magic or us showing up and being the missing ingredient, that has nothing to do with a party preparation getting mixed up with these crates and the food and the beignets, and I could see these outfits being a part of that mix-up. So just a theory, just a ride theory, but we shall see. Now, well, that is my theory for the attraction. Everything I'm about to talk about is 100% fact from Disney over the last year, and I specifically want to highlight the first scene that we will see when we drop into the Bayou. And I think it's important to highlight this scene because I think that this is going to give us a good look at what we can expect from this entire attraction. And this first major scene, not only having 8 audio animatronics, but featuring Tiana and Louis, is awesome. And not only do we know that Tiana and Louis are going to appear multiple times throughout the attraction, but all of the human animatronics we now know will feature that same A1000 figure with the fully sculpted faces like we recently saw at Frozen Ever After in Hong Kong Disneyland. And well, this was the first time we got this in writing that Tiana's Bayou Adventure is moving away from the projected faces and they're going to have fully sculpted faces. We actually got this confirmed in November by Michael Dendolk, who was one of the main Imagineers on World of Frozen at Hong Kong Disneyland and helped lead that Frozen Ever After animatronic improvement, because during one of the media events there, one of the members of the media asked him, hey, why did Imagineering decide to move away from these screen-faced animatronics? And his answer was, at the time that technology was great, but as we've improved our technology, we've realized that those screen faces don't always look best in these dark ride environments with the paint and the screens and just taking you out of that authentic experience. So when he said that Imagineering was moving away from the screen faces, it indirectly said that Tiana's Bayou Adventure was going to have these physically sculpted faces for all the human animatronics. This was just the first time we've had it in writing. So definitely very excited to see Walt Disney World get these incredible A1000 figures, because as we all know, Splash Mountain had a ton of animatronics, and well, we know Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to have dozens of animatronics. That is official. Having those incredible A1000 figures is always welcome, and seeing that Tiana and Louis are going to appear multiple times throughout, along with the finale, definitely some very promising stuff here. Another cool thing is that, well, this has happened on multiple projects in the past. We do have official confirmation that Walt Disney Animation Studios are working with Walt Disney Imagineering to make sure that these characters are brought to life in an authentic way. And because if you think about it, these characters are animated for the movie, but that was back, late 2000s, and now this is the first time that these characters have truly been brought to life in the real world, especially with all of this new technology. So, well, we know that they're working with them on the animatronics and some of the screen-based media in the attraction. What I do hope is that in the recent years before Splash Mountain closed, they added like TVs that showed the load procedure, and there was some cool animation of critters getting in the logs and going on their way on Splash Mountain. I think that this would be a really, really cool opportunity to use those same TVs in the queue for Tiana's Bayou Adventure and have some original 2D animation here showing characters get into the logs and going on our way now into the Bayou. So not only, like I said, are they working with them on the animatronics and some of the screen-based media, but, well, it's not confirmed. I'm hoping that that safety spiel and the loading procedure is new 2D animation from Walt Disney Animation Studios. And the last official thing I will say about the attraction's storyline, and something worth noting, is that when they gave NOLA.com that tour of the attraction, that tour stopped pretty much where we have the former laughing place scene up to the 50-foot drop. So when the media asked them, hey, why are we not seeing this? The answer that they gave them was that there is a magical moment that's going to happen from that former laughing place scene to the lead up to the drop to the 50-foot drop itself. And we know that Mama Odie is going to be involved in this, not Dr. Facilier. That is official. Dr. Facilier is not going to be in this attraction, as, like I mentioned, this is Tiana's current chapter after the movie. So all of the magic that we're going to see, I'm imagining, is going to be a lot of lasers, music, screens, mist, projections, all of that stuff mixed with the bottle lanterns and the Mama Odie animatronic. I'm really hoping that there's a moment of transformation, maybe a cool reveal where it's kind of like one of those wow moments while you're experiencing it for the first time. But being that Imagineering didn't even show this to media that was invited out for an early tour, gives me hope that that 50-foot drop will no longer be scary, but more of this awesome wow moment to where kids going on this attraction aren't scared anymore, but still offers that same level of thrill we know and love from Splash Mountain. All right, so with all of that being said, all of the information we just talked about, and that's not even all of the information, I didn't even mention that there's an original theme song being created for this attraction that we're going to hear in the finale that was worked on for a year by PJ Morton, that's already been recorded and is out there somewhere. I didn't even talk about that, let alone many other little fun details, but I think the most important thing that we're all wondering is, when will Tiana's Bayou Adventure open here at Walt Disney World? And I know for certain that we are getting a pretty big update from Disney on February 13th when Mardi Gras is celebrated in New Orleans, as Disney is undoubtedly going to give us a big update on this attraction, as Mardi Gras is exactly what is going to be featured in this attraction in the finale, this Mardi Gras party, and there's no better time to announce that than Mardi Gras itself in New Orleans. So, what could we get out of this announcement on February 13th? Well, that's the big question here. What I am hoping for is a first listen of that song by PJ Morton, and hopefully, at the very least, opening timeframes like seasons, summer, winter, fall. Summer for Walt Disney World is my hope, and fall for Disneyland is my hope. So that's just theory, just speculation, but that's my hope out of this announcement. Now, with that being said, if we are very lucky, we will get an opening date for Walt Disney World, which at the very soonest, this is the most optimistic date possible, have May 24th circled on your calendar, as in the past, Disney has opened multiple attractions on May 24th. Memorial Day weekend is their number one time to open new experiences and new attractions, so if Tiana's Bayou Adventure is ready and everything goes to plan at an absolute perfect pace, no delays, there is a chance that Tiana's Bayou Adventure could open on May 24th here at Walt Disney World. What I will say though about May 24th being extremely optimistic is that if it is going to open on May 24th, we have to get that opening date announcement on February 13th at Mardi Gras. If that announcement does not come on February 13th, then it's extremely unlikely at that point that it would open on May 24th, as Disney usually likes to give a 3 and 4 month window from when it's announced, the opening date is announced, to when the attraction itself opens for bookings, because if people are going to be planning a vacation to Walt Disney World, you can't drop your entire life in a week from an opening date announcement to going to experience a new ride. You have to plan for months. That's what most people do. So I'm going to say that if the opening date for Walt Disney World is not announced on February 13th, then cross May 24th off the board, and that leads us to our next possible date, which I think personally is a little more likely. Now that leads us to the second date on my calendar I have circled for when Tiana's Bayou Adventure could open here at Walt Disney World, and that is July 1st. I think that July 1st is a much more likely possibility, just due to the fact that that would give Disney about 5 weeks longer to fine and tune everything, make sure everything's working correctly, maybe even throw in some previews there as if it were to open on Memorial Day. And not only would that be a massive boost for summer bookings at Walt Disney World, as we know that they're a lot slower right now bookings wise. That's why we've seen these promotions, free dining plans, resort discounts, all of those things. When you see those, that's because bookings are lower. So a July 1st opening would not only be a prime summer opening date, it would also be a great offering for the 4th of July crowds. And it happens to lie just a few days before the Essence Festival celebrates its 30th year in New Orleans. So I think that this is a much more likely opening date, though May 24th isn't off the table yet. I just think that having it open on July 1st, right around the Essence Festival in its 30th year, Disney could promote the heck out of this thing at Essence Fest from July 4th to July 7th. Another thing with that July 1st date is not only would it give Imagineering a little bit more time to figure everything out, but don't forget that Disney has already confirmed the Country Bear Musical Jamboree will be reopening at Magic Kingdom this summer. So we know that that's going to be a big draw at Magic Kingdom for the parks fans this summer, and I feel like it would only make sense that they will want to reopen Country Bears and also open Tiana on the same day to have a big media push. It would just make sense, as last year we saw this exactly happen with Tron Light Cycle Run opening and Happily Ever After returning on the same day on April 4th. So if Disney wants to do a similar strategy with that this summer, then they could reopen the Country Bear Jamboree and have Tiana's Bayou Adventure open right next to each other on the same day. The last thing I'll say about July 1st is, if it is to open on July 1st, again, this is all an if, is that opening date announcement would likely come on the annual meeting of shareholders this spring. We don't have an exact date for the annual meeting of shareholders yet, but in the past, we've seen that happen in the first week of March and the first week of April. So that would also give Disney, again, that 3 to 4 month window from announcement to opening. That could give Disney this big media push, get all of their media people in town at the same time for these two big offerings. That's why I think that July 1st date makes a little more sense. So those are the 3 dates I have circled on my calendar right now. February 13th for when we're going to get an update on this attraction. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but make sure to stay tuned on February 13th. May 24th, could it open on Memorial Day? It could, but that would be pushing it. Very optimistic at this point. And July 1st. Anything after that at this point, I don't think Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to open after that at this point. There's always that date of October 1st, which is when Disney's new fiscal year starts, but this attraction is going to be done long before October 1st. That's just the matter of the fact at this point, and there's absolutely no reason it should open on October 1st, but only time will tell. I am super excited for February 13th. Make sure to stay tuned, as that's going to be when we get our major update for Disney on this attraction. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. See y'all in the Bayou.